Welcome to another video guide about advanced call routing. In this video, we cover the outbound call restriction features available on the Grandstream UCM solutions. These features can be implemented to restrict outbound calls based on predefined rules incorporating privilege, PIN numbers, passwords, source caller ID Allowlist, and Outbound Blocklist. These mechanisms can help prevent unauthorized outbound calls, minimize toll fraud risk, and control access to expensive call routes. Outbound call privilege controls which extensions can dial through a specific outbound route by comparing an extension privilege with the outbound route privilege level. Only extensions that have an equal or higher privilege level than the outbound route are allowed to call through the trunk. Extensions in outbound routes can be assigned one of 4 privilege levels, ranging from lowest to highest: internal, local, national, and international. It is important to note that privilege-based restrictions are applied to the extension rather than a user. In this configuration example, a common area IP phone is deployed and is strictly used for internal dialing. To prevent unauthorized outbound calling from this phone, we will implement a privilege-based restriction on the extension used by the IP phone. The outbound routes configured on the UCM have a local privilege level, so the extension must be assigned a lower privilege level. Edit extension 1007. Go to Basic Settings and change the call privilege to internal. If this extension tries to make an outbound call to an external number, it will get the following prompt.
You are not allowed to dial this number.
It is important to note that emergency calls do not follow the outbound routes restrictions if emergency calls feature is configured. So, extension 1007 will still be able to call the emergency numbers defined under the emergency calls feature. Using the same configuration example, the sales managers need to make international calls to their clients in foreign markets. The calling plan with the SIP provider allows for international calls. The requirement is to enable authentication for international calls on the UCM to ensure that only the sales managers can make those calls. To meet this requirement, the Grandstream UCM solutions support outbound calling authentication with a unique PIN or a shared password before a call is routed through a specific outbound route. We need to add an outbound route for international calling. In the US and Canada, 011 is the standard dialing code used to initiate calls to most foreign countries, followed by the country code. To enable user-based authentication, you can configure a single password that is shared among the sales managers and that they need to enter before the UCM proceeds with their outbound international calls. Unlike password-based authentication, PIN groups assign to each user a unique PIN code while tracking usage via CDR. Click on PIN groups. It will open this page where we need to define and add members to a PIN group. When record in CDR is checked, the UCM will report the member's name that made the call. For instance, if Bob makes an outbound call that requires a PIN, CDR will include the member's name next to the call entry in the CDR. After the PIN group is created, we should have it available as an option under the outbound route configuration page. To add an extra layer of protection, PIN groups can be used together with privilege level. Combining user authentication with extension privilege level ensures that only specific users can make outbound international calls from specific phone extensions. After enabling PIN group with privilege level, ensure the sales manager's extensions are configured with the same privilege. The extension configuration page includes the feature Skip Trunk Authentication. This feature allows certain extensions to bypass the PIN or password requirement entirely or bypass it only during specific time conditions. Enabling Skip Trunk Authentication is primarily a convenience feature used to eliminate the authentication requirement for specific extensions. As good practice, limit access to international and premium cost calling to only users that absolutely require it. and combine it with password or PIN groups to add another layer of protection against toll fraud, which often happens when an attacker gains access to an extension with a high privilege level. Another extension-based authentication method supported by the Grandstream UCM solutions is filtering by source caller ID. By enabling this feature, a UCM administrator can define which extensions are allowed to make calls through a specific outbound route. This feature is applied to an extension group, and numbers that match a predefined pattern. Source caller ID filtering can also be used in our previous example to restrict international outbound calling to specific extensions. Generally, this feature is implemented when multiple outbound routes are configured with the same dialing pattern but different outbound caller ID or different trunks. In this configuration example, there are 3 distinct outbound caller IDs for 3 different departments. One way to assign specific outbound caller ID numbers to designated departments or extension groups is to use filter source caller ID with outbound route caller ID. We will use the sales department in this example to show you how to set it up. This outbound route will apply to 10-digit dialing. Enter the sales department caller ID in the outbound route CID. Enable source caller ID Allowlist. Select the sales manager's extensions. This feature supports matching caller ID patterns. For instance, instead of selecting extensions one by one, an extension range can be defined using the supported characters. Both can be used at the same time. Source caller ID pattern can also be used to define extensions that exist on another peered UCM. This is an example that can be used to illustrate how to add external extensions and numbers to the source caller ID Allowlist. The remote UCM is using the extension range 2000. And the regional sales managers make outbound calls through the SIP trunk on the main UCM. Because the remote extensions will not be listed here, this source caller ID pattern can be defined to allow extensions from the 2000 range. In part 1 of the Advanced Call Routing video guide series, we explained how to use the outbound matching pattern to define what numbers are allowed through a specific outbound route. The Grandstream UCM solutions supports Outbound Blocklist that can be configured to prevent users from calling specific destination numbers. The Outbound Blocklist is defined and applied globally to the UCM. Because this blocklist applies globally, it will affect all outbound routes. The list can be configured to block explicit numbers, specific dial patterns, or entire country codes to prevent UCM users from reaching them. If a country code happens to be affected by the global blacklist, the UCM administrator can configure the local country code option on the specific outbound route to bypass the outbound blocklist and allow calls while maintaining the global restriction. This concludes our video about outbound calling restrictions. In the next video, we cover caller ID management for outbound calling. Thank you for watching.